Richie Mars, I am not saying CM Punk is the best part of this feud, but has CM Punk added an extreme amount of value to this feud?
CM Punk's presence is definitely felt throughout this feud. It's kind of weird because you have two guys feuding over a championship that was called the second place championship, the losers bracket championship. And the more interesting part about these two guys is the guy who currently is at a commentary desk commentating on it. So, not the saying that this is bad. This is just a very unforeseen turn of event. They have their lemons and they're trying to make lemonade.
I do think that CM Punk's presence has added to the transition of Drew McIntyre's character 100%.
Mhm.
CM Punk is a perfect foil for Drew McIntyre to really establish this role he has going on now. And yeah, it's an interesting feud. But before we jump into that, Richie, what you been up to?
Just been doing my thing, TikTok, having videos every day about current wrestling and wrestling trivia, and also releasing every Tuesday wrestling retold and relived with Richie Mars. I, of course, am Richie Mars, which you could find on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And I'm in the midst of WrestleMonthia, where every podcast is a WrestleMania themed episode. You were on one, in fact, when we split
Was
WrestleMania 32 through 35 into 2 nights to see how that would transition to this new era of WrestleMania. So that's exactly what I've been up to so far.
If you haven't seen that one, go download it and listen to it. It was fun to do it with you, Richie.
Thank you.
All right, so this feud can really trace back to Crown Jewel. They had their first encounter at Crown Jewel, and it was a very, very, very good match. And Seth Rollins got the better of Drew McIntyre in that match in a well-fought babyface versus babyface match. Drew McIntyre was kind of leaning heel a little bit, or had shades of gray of heel going into that match, and those kind of amplified even more heading into the Survivor Series, where he teamed up with the Judgment Day on the losing side of things in the War Games match. And that would lead to another encounter between these two with a fully Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins on the day one edition of Monday Night Raw. And again, another stellar in-ring performance from both these guys, a great match, and Seth Rollins found himself victorious. But Drew McIntyre would find himself coming up short in the Royal Rumble. He had an unfortunate injury on CM Punk, but fortunate for himself, where the WrestleMania, perhaps night one main event, is now up in smoke, and they need to pivot. And Seth Rollins finds himself still in that night one main event at WrestleMania with Cody Rhodes versus The Rock and Roman Reigns. But we're not here to talk about that match right now, Richie. We're here to talk about this match. And Drew McIntyre made this match official by winning the Elimination Chamber in Perth. So, with all that being said, we hinted CM Punk's involvement of this feud. I'm sure he's going to do commentary, perhaps be a referee, showed that good, strong left arm. But I am pretty sure he's going to be commentary, unless if they pull a pivot and have him referee the match. But overall, Richie, I'm kind of digging this. On paper, it's hard, right? Seth is double booked. Seth is in the night one main event. But Richie, they've been kind of dealt a tough hand here. I think they're kind of killing it, and I'm really excited for this match. How about you, buddy?
This is, again, like you said, you're dealt the cards you're dealt with. You know what I mean? You have to use the cards you're dealt with. And this feud right here is the exact thing, because we all were expecting Seth Rollins, CM Punk, WrestleMania, main event, night one. That's what we were all anticipating and expecting. And we were kind of thinking at for Drew, he was doing like something with Sammy. They were having their little issue, so they would pivot that way. But again, things happen. Punk's injured, and the only pivot you could have done with Seth Rollins and the World Championship was with Drew McIntyre, because he's the only person on the Raw brain that was built for that spot. And the character of Drew McIntyre, his entire character arc, is one of the best in WWE today, because you have him, starting out as this good guy when he returned at Money in the Bank. And then slowly but surely you tease that heel turn, you get that slow burn going, and then you finally get that boom, hard heel turn at Survivor Series. And now we're in a point where Drew McIntyre, he's trolling CM Punk online. So CM Punk has already made feud right when CM Punk gets back in ring to WWE. And with Drew McIntyre, it's enhanced his character in such a way because if you remember all the promos leading up to Cody's choice, and there were teases of Cody Rhodes maybe going to Seth Rollins to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship instead. And that seems like a lifetime ago. And Drew McIntyre trying to convince Cody, no, you don't want to do this. You want to you want to finish the story. And then Drew McIntyre, he's presenting it as he is the one for the job. He is the one to bring the World Heavyweight Championship back to its prestige. But the underlying story that's been going on is that Drew McIntyre wants this for himself because he never got that moment at WrestleMania 36. He won the championship, but the crowd was not there. And Drew McIntyre will do anything for that moment. And that's the story that's being presented here, right now. And there's a lot of story arcs that are closing at WrestleMania, ending, and there are a lot of stuff that's beginning. And the ones that are ending are Seth Rollins main eventing WrestleMania, and then you have Drew McIntyre, if he were to win, finally going on his heel run with the championship. Because this World Heavyweight Championship, Seth Rollins has been dealt a really tough hand, being the inaugural champion, having challengers that a lot of the fan base would prefer to be world champion because they haven't gotten their moment. Well, Seth has been given moment after moment with championship gold. And to be honest, Seth Rollins has done a tremendous job as the inaugural champion and actually the longest reigning inaugural champion WWE's ever had. But I do think it's kind of worn thin a little bit because there's not much you could take the Seth Rollins character now that he's had this championship for this amount of time. You can't have him develop much further as a character at this point. So it's almost like a turning chapter. It's going to be an interesting time at WrestleMania when this match goes down.
It's going to be good, I think. I'm very intrigued in both of these guys. More Drew than Seth, like when they both like stand alone, really. I continuously have my issues with Seth. I think that can, I don't know. But I feel like he's done a really good job in the role of Cody's buddy. And I feel like a transition for him is coming. And I'm not sure what that transition is, but I feel like it's cooking up and it could be bigger for him as he kind of keeps elevating up this card. And yet that's crazy. You would think that because he's been a main eventer on Raw forever, but I'm talking prestige wise, whatnot. But Drew, it really could be his time here at WrestleMania. It's I don't want to say he's like he could be the placeholder for CM Punk title reign, but I would be happy for him if he kind of did get that moment. Now let's talk two people real quick. Let's put a bow on CM Punk. Do you think commentary is his role here?
Yeah. They announced that on Raw yesterday. So I do think CM Punk is going to just strictly be commentary, with the triceps injury, 6 to 9 months. You don't want to risk that timetable. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for having him get physical, the only reason why he was physical after the Rumble was because it was a completely torn tricep and you can't do any more damage to it. Same thing what happened with Cody with the pec in the Hell in a Cell match, ironically, against Seth Rollins. So I don't see him getting physically involved. I do think his role's in commentary, and I think a very interesting turn would be if CM Punk from here on out is the commentator for all the World Heavyweight Championship matches. So he has to force and watch Seth Rollins or Drew McIntyre defend the championship, and you'll have CM Punk stewing. Imagine Drew McIntyre or Seth Rollins holding the championship above CM Punk, and then you see CM Punk just deck them, and then boom, he's cleared, and then we're off to the races. So I think we're still going to get those teases of that eventual matchup between either CM Punk and Rollins or CM Punk and McIntyre. But that is his role for WrestleMania 40 as of now.
Now, do you think he has any physicality in a safe way, so to speak, in this match, perhaps costing one of these guys on accident, perhaps not on accident?
I don't see it happening physically. I do see it happening maybe
or
indirectly.
Verbally
verbally, maybe like McIntyre mouths off at Punk and then Punk gets on the apron or something like that, and that causes like a distraction or something. But I don't see CM Punk getting physically involved whatsoever. I'd be shocked if he would, because I don't think that would risk his tricep recovery like that. And the joke is CM Punk is made of glass, cry me a river. And I don't think we should do that. But the interesting thing is with McIntyre, if he were to win the championship here, it's almost like parallels to the AEW World Championship, if you really think about it, because You got Samoa Joe, who was deemed as like a placeholder for Swerve, and now you'll have Drew McIntyre as the placeholder for McIntyre. But both guys are crushing it in their roles right now. So I don't think placeholder would be the right term. I just think it's definitely a warm body. You know what I mean? So they could
Mhm.
run roughshod on their respective rosters, and then when the final matchup happens between McIntyre and Punk, or Rollins and Punk in this case, everything will go tremendously well.
If CM Punk is healthy,
Yeah.
what is The Rock doing at WrestleMania 40 if it's just CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, and if it's just Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn on the undercard?
You know, I think, and I hate doing like triple threat matches, you know.
Yeah.
Uh so I think the safe bet would probably be uh Rock Night 1 with Roman, and then Cody Night 2 maybe? Or maybe you could just have Cody and Rock at Night 1, because
Yeah.
look what we're building to now, and then you have the winner of that match going Cody Roman 2.
Yeah, it's
And
just it's just weird that we got this clusterfuck, but it kind of worked out really good.
it's very Attitude Era-esque, and I did like a TikTok video on this, but I cut this part out, where it's like this Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre build-up kind of reminds me of the old Rock Stone Cold Mankind build-up to
Yeah,
WrestleMania
15.
15, because you know the main feud was Steve Austin and McMahon, with Rock kind of as the placeholder champion, and The Rock was feuding with Mankind, and then they were having their issue, and the whole road to WrestleMania was such a giant cluster, and everything was just kind of going like a million miles a minute. And there were even talks that they were trying to make that a triple threat match, or even make it a singles match, but they were trying to get Rock out of there for a little bit. And I'll give you 2 guesses on who won The Rock out of that match. Yep,
HBK.
yep. or Chad Frost if you watch Young Rock. But yeah, though. So this one is a very similar position, where it's like the actual championship match isn't really the focus; it's the chaos surrounding it, and I think that's what makes it a lot more exciting than just these feuds. Because we've been having McIntyre and Rollins in ring segments for the last couple of weeks, and a lot of it is, you know, a little derivative, but slowly but surely you see McIntyre kind of cracking under not only the pressure, but the true colors of McIntyre are coming out. He's not in this for the best of the World Heavyweight Championship. He's in this for himself. And I think that's going to go full blown for WrestleMania.
All right, so Damian Priest, any chance at WrestleMania? Yay or nay?
There's always a chance.
Yeah.
Do I think it's likely? To be honest, I see it more as a night after WrestleMania kind of
Took my
deal.
answer.
Eh,
Took my answer.
you know, because it's like, again, he's going to go through a brutal ladder match, you know, during one of the nights. And depending what night that's on, there's no clear cut way of
If
Priest
it's
cashing
before
in.
this, you never know. If that ladder match is early, angle
It,
alert.
it is, but again, like, I'm just never a fan of like cashing in directly after a ladder match or any like brutal match, because again, it's supposed to
Liv,
be like a really brutal
right?
match. We've seen it before, you know, with Kane, with Liv, but I'm just not like a tremendous big fan of that. Like, even Ambrose did it, but again, their company, they can do what they want. So, but I don't see Priest cashing in at Mania. I think Raw after Mania is probably his shot.
Gotcha. 3 questions we ask everyone as we're out of here. What
Yeah.
night do you see this falling on?
They did say this was going to happen WrestleMania Sunday, so I would say this opens WrestleMania Sunday. Have Seth Rollins be that guy, the first ever guy to close WrestleMania, and then open the next day at WrestleMania. Have a nice little accomplishment for him, because Triple H's era of creative has been doing, like, you know, record breaking stuff, you know, with Gunther, with Cody Rhodes doing the back to back Rumble wins, Roman obviously. So I think
Building
that's a little feather to add to Seth Rollins' cap. So that's where I see this match happening.
I like that, and I agree. All right, out of 10, how excited are you for this match?
Solid 8. You know, I am excited because, again, we've seen what these two can present themselves, you know, and I feel like the Crown Jewel match and the Day One match really didn't showcase everything they can do. And now that
And it
they
was still
have,
great. Yeah.
yeah, and they still have this stage to do it. And of course, with Punk on commentary, it just adds that extra factor in, depending on who wins this match. And again, this WrestleMania, a lot of things are up in the air. Not everything is so predictable, in my opinion. It could go any different way, and that's what makes this time so exciting in wrestling.
All right, Richie, who's winning this match?
Oh, you see, I always like argue with my brain and my heart. Who do I want to win, and who do I think is going to win? But I think they're both aligned this time. I know there's been reports of Drew McIntyre hasn't signed a contract, or he has signed, but then it's like, oh, that report isn't real. He hasn't signed. And I find it ironic that McIntyre's in a match for a world championship when Punk's on commentary when his contract was expiring, and then had a breakout showcase match with the WWE championship. But
Yep.
I want to say McIntyre wins here, because I think if they want to do this whole WrestleMania deal, I don't want to say right, but if you want to kind of even it out, you have to have one of the baby faces lose their championship or lose their match. And I think Seth Rollins, it has to lose in order for Cody to win, or vice versa. So I'm going with McIntyre.
It's actually harder than you would think. You would think, oh, well, it's perfect time for Seth to drop the title.
Mhm.
But we've been saying that nonstop for the last 6 months. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a thing. And it's Drew. It's like, oh, well, Drew earns it. He's in the good spot. But
Mhm.
Triple H is very plan oriented. And
Mhm.
Drew, this is a kind of a slap together WrestleMania match for a World Heavyweight Championship. And Triple H being very plan oriented, perhaps Drew could win and be a placeholder for that eventual plan,
Mhm.
pending Punk's injury. Or maybe it wasn't the plan for Punk to win all along. It was still the plan for Seth Rollins to win and continues the World Heavyweight title run. So
I think that was probably the plan. That's just my crazy conspiracy theory.
then I will probably go with the plan is the plan. And we'll talk about maybe perhaps Seth being vulnerable the night after WrestleMania on wrestling back-to-back nights, and then
Mhm.
perhaps having a third match in a row on Monday Night Raw, and then opportunity perhaps may strike, or the raft of the bloodline will strike, or something like that. So
Mhm.
we'll next time we talk, Richie,
Mhm.
perhaps will Seth Rollins be your World Heavyweight Champion? Perhaps not. Will he
Mhm.
lose at WrestleMania? Perhaps not. So, Richie, that's that. That's my prediction, and I'm
Yeah.
sticking to it, buddy.
Hey, it's a good prediction. That's the great thing about this WrestleMania. Anything can happen, and there's a lot of different avenues you can take this. And I do think that this match is it's not the biggest match of the weekend, obviously, but it's definitely going to play an important role on how each match is going to be determined. The WWE Undisputed Universal Championship match and the tag team match as well. So this match is going to be kind of like right in the middle, like a little like interlude before the storm. It's a nice little break, but there's still a lot of stuff happening. It's almost like a Marvel movies, where everything's connected. This match is connected. It's not an Avengers, but it's a pretty solid Captain America Winter Soldier.
I'll take your word on that one, buddy.
I figured.
I don't know how to take that, I figured. But
Yeah.
Richie, one last thing? Paul Heyman and Drew McIntyre were shown talking backstage. Has anything to do with anything, or is that just a fake red herring?
I thought it was just for the night that McIntyre attacked Rollins on Raw. I think it was just kind of like getting in his head with that. And I think, Paul Heyman is a championship whisperer. He whispers into champions' ears to try to get them on their side. And it looks like Drew might be very heavily influenced. We saw it with Rhea Ripley. Now we're seeing with Paul Heyman. So Drew McIntyre is easily influenced when something's in it for him. And this is exactly the type of scenario where he's probably going to be kind of focused on and going to take any shortcut he can to become a champion.
All right, retold with Richie Mars. Catch him everywhere, especially that WrestleMania episode 32 to 35 rebooked for 2 nights.
Yeah, a great guess for that one. Humble
Richie,
guess too.
Richie, we'll see you on the next one, buddy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, man.